So guess what? It's a great day in America because newspapers have started a new section in their newspapers called fact checking. I thought that's what the whole newspaper was, one big fact check. But it turns out it's really catching on too. Tampa Bay Times started it with their PolitiFact, right?
Wow.
They're gonna fact check politicians. Isn't that what are you doing on the front page? if you're not fact, Washington Post now has a thing where they give out Pinocchios, right? They had 4 Pinocchio. So Darrell Issa gave Benghazi, right? He was given 4 Pinocchios. For lying about Benghazi, saying stuff about Hillary Clinton, that gave a stand down, or so he was given 4 Pinocchios, and then he said this, and then he's going to go on with Mike Wallace, and here let's hear what he said about Benghazi, and see, because every time they bring up Benghazi, I'm never sure what the thing is that they're upset about. Do you know what it is, Dave? First, it was that they were upset that Barack Obama said they got attacked because of a video, and it wasn't because of a video. And then when we figured out, okay, it wasn't because of a video, and Barack Obama agreed, they're still mad about Benghazi. He said he didn't, but then they did an investigation, and turns out everybody said it was okay, and nobody got to jail. And
as a guy with the show on YouTube, I only wish YouTube was as influential as these people think it might be.
Yeah, oh, right, with the video that caused that.
Yeah, that would be something.
That would be something. So then he was giving a speech, and he said this, and let's listen.
Why there was not one order given to turn on one Department of Defense asset. I have my suspicions, which is Secretary Clinton told Leon to stand down.
Okay, so that's BS, right? So he's just making that up. And so Chris Wallace, now this is why people like to pretend that Chris Wallace is not bad. Right, because every once in a because he fakes news. He does fake newsman good or well. He does it well.
Right.
Look at me.
No, he's on Fox, but he may actually be a better journalist than David Gregory.
Yes. Yeah. Which is again, that's not the very low bar.
It's a very low bar, but you know.
So Chris Wallace calls him out on this. He says, "Hey, here we go."
But the Washington Post fact checker cited that bipartisan report you mentioned from the Senate Intelligence Committee that there were no stand-down orders, and there's also no evidence that Clinton ever spoke to Leon Panetta, then Defense Secretary, that night. And for the second time, they gave you 4 Pinocchios, which is their highest level of falsehood. How do you respond to that, sir?
Well, by lying.
I never saw Pinocchio.
I'm going to say probably by lying.
The nose meant he was doing something good, right?
They gave him 4 Pinocchios for the same Benghazi story 4 times. He released a report first. They gave him 4 Pinocchios for it, and then now here he is for that thing. Go ahead, Frank.
It's weird. He got 4 Pinocchios and 2 Geppettos.
So here he is. Here's his excuse. Ready? Here we go.
Well, first of all, the first one was for quoting something that was in somebody else's report, believing that it was true, which is an unusual way to get 4 Pinocchios.
Okay, the report, the report that he's referring to is the 43-page interim progress report, which was issued last April 23rd, 2013, by 5 committee chairmen in the House. The first chairman was Howard Buck McKeon of the Armed Services Committee, Ed Royce of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Bob Goodlatte of the Judiciary Committee, Mike Rogers. I love him, yeah. Mike Rogers, we just saw him, the Intelligence Committee.
Great guy,
And who was the 5th one who signed off on that report? Oh, it was Darrell Issa. So he just said, well, I got 4 Pinocchios for somebody else's report. It's your report. Your name's on the report. You released the report. Okay. So I just want to catch that. So he gets 4 Pinocchios, and the way he gets out of it is he lies about it. So that's how do you get beat? By being caught by a fact checker in a newspaper for being a liar? You lie a little bit more, right to Chris Wallace's face. By the way, it works. It works. Chris Wallace is not going to catch him on it. Let's go.
Well, first of all, the first one was for quoting something that was in somebody else's report, believing that it was true, which is an unusual way to get 4 Pinocchios.
Okay, so we just saw that. Well, here it is. Here's the next. Here's Chris.
But to be honest, you do not have any evidence that Secretary Clinton told Leon Panetta to stand down.
Well,
again,
members of the armed forces, gun-carrying, trained people, were not allowed to get on the aircraft to go and attempt the rescue.
Okay, again, no evidence. And when Chris Wallace has to ask you twice. I mean, we saw David Gregory in the clip at the top of the show ask twice Mike Rogers, and now here's another guy. I have to ask you twice for evidence of this stuff you're claiming, and you can't give it to me. And he just keeps going, right? He just keeps going. So he claims that the members of the armed forces, gun-carrying trained people, were not allowed to get on the aircraft to go. Here, we just heard him say it. Let's hear him say it again.
Members of the armed forces, gun-carrying trained people, were not allowed to get on the aircraft to go and attempt the rescue.
That's just made up, right? What he doesn't mention that the special operations commander in question later told investigators that the decision was correct in hindsight because his team otherwise would not have been in Tripoli to deal with the problem. So this is all, again, he's just lying to Chris Wallace's face. Chris Wallace says, hey, this newspaper, they do fact-checking over there at the newspaper. It's funny how he goes, hey, the Washington Post fact-checked you. Why didn't you just fact-check him, Chris? Why didn't go, hey, by the way, I checked that out. You're lying. He's got to put it on someone else. Hey, Washington Post checked you. We're too busy to fact-check stuff over here. So, but by the way, they did, and they said you were lying. So that's go ahead, Frank.
I don't know if you remember the original Pinocchio story, but he lied so much he got 4 ices.
So now here's a great piece of tape. He just gets called out twice for not having evidence. He just keeps ignoring it, just keeps lying. And here they ask about this stand down. He said, hey, I think President Clinton told Leon Panetta to stand down. I think he told him to stand down.
Secretary of State, you're jumping the gun, Jimmy.
All right,
not
I'm sorry.
President Clinton.
I'm sorry, that's right.
That's not till, give it a couple of years.
So he's going to redefine right now he's going to move the goalposts. They're going to go what stand down means. And what else is he going to do? Oh, let's see what else he does. Let's watch.
Those kinds of things, through State Department resources, represent a stand down. Not maybe on the technical terms of stand down, soldier, but on what the American people believe is a failure to respond when they could have.
Okay, so lack of evidence doesn't stop him from he just keeps saying it. He just keeps going, just keeps saying it. And, well, how does Chris Wallace treat him after that? So he brings him on. He says, hey, you've been caught lying. He then lies to Chris Wallace, makes him look like a monkey. And what happens?
All right. Congressman Issa, thank you. Thank you so much for coming in today. And
that's how that's how he makes him pay. Here, I'll show it to you again. Ready? Here's how he makes him pay.
All right. Congressman Issa, thank you. Thank you so much for coming in today. And
Thank you for coming in and lying to my face, lying to our audience, misleading the American people. You've been called out by the Washington Post twice for being the biggest liar they've ever seen. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. He's a very nice guy, isn't he? See you at the golf club.
Yeah.
I wish that late night talk shows were run like news shows, because I could go on as a comedian and completely bomb.
And they wouldn't say anything.
And they would say, Frank, we got to have you back real soon.
We got to have you back. Love you. Thank you, Frank. It was great. Everybody loved you. Well, here, he not only does he say thanks for coming on and lying to everybody, but then he goes one better. Chris Wallace then forwards a false lying talking point from Darrell Issa. So here's very quickly. We all saw the tape where Darrell Issa turned off the microphone in that hearing room, right? They were having a congressional hearing. I forget the name of the congressman. It was a black congressman.
Clyburn, right?
Clyburn, okay. He turned off his microphone. It was big deal all over the press, right? Because he's being a jerk. So that hearing, he brought someone to testify. Her name is Lois Lerner. She's been taking the fifth. She's not going to testify in front of his committee. She's taking the fifth. He knows she's taking the fifth. And every time he calls her to testify, she gets death threats, right, from teabaggers, right, because she's taking the fifth and he's making her look like a liar. So he tells Chris Wallace that, by the way, she's going to testify now. She's agreed to testify, which is a lie. She hadn't agreed to testify. He just wanted to call her back in front of the committee to humiliate her again, to have another pony show, monkey show. He gets Chris Wallace to say it. Let's watch this.
All right. Congressman Issa, thank you. Thank you so much for coming in today. And again, we want to point out the big news, and the big news is that Lois Lerner, according to her attorney, is going to waive her Fifth Amendment rights and will testify before ICE's House Oversight Committee this week. Thank you for the news, and we'll be following the hearing.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, because that was. Hey, thanks for lying to me about that, by the way, Daryl Issa, because she didn't do that. Her lawyer didn't say she was going to testify. She didn't testify, and you just lied to me. But Chris Wallace got to repeat his lie, like, with a megaphone. Hey, the big news, by the way. I'm going to say it. I'm Chris Wallace. I didn't fact check it because that's not what we do here. We let the newspapers fact check stuff. I just repeat stuff politicians say, and someone else fact checks it. By the way, he's been lying all the time. He's lying to me now, and I'm going to repeat the lie. Thanks for tuning in to Sunday, folks, with Fox and Fox.
They were also laughing.
And they're laughing at the end.
They were literally laughing. Like, you just told me that thing about the lawyer. You want me to repeat it? I'll actually just say it right now.
You know, Jimmy, for saying that, I'm going to give Chris Wallace 4 Lennies, which is based on the character from Of Mice and Men.